some time to such a fundamental topic and a topic that many people know about, but we shouldn't underestimate how distant or disconnected we are from soil, from our food, from our ecosystem. We're here in an absolutely spectacular building. I want to thank the audience, of course, for showing up, and thank the team, because you don't see it, but behind the scenes there is a massive crew of people making sure that we run like a machine. We're pushed on stage, mic'd up, everything. So I want to start with a round of applause for the organizers, and that they put soil on the agenda, because this wasn't, a few years ago, soil and food and agriculture just wasn't a topic in these events. Climate was very much climate, and soil and food and agriculture was somewhere in another event. And I'm so happy that that has changed and that has been merging, or at least getting the attention it needs. And I'm very happy with my panel of today. I'm going to call them on stage. I think Arnoud is the first, with Laure and Dana. So please, if you can send my amazing panel on stage. They're waiting in the green room, I know. We get the music, perfect. Give them a round of applause, because it's a big one. It's a big stage to come on, Laura. It really makes us feel like rock stars, which is amazing. So welcome, all three. I'm very happy to have this conversation here, because it's challenging times, changing times, of course, but also challenging times in terms of global chaos, as I like to call it. But I want to start with a short introduction. This is a very short panel, unfortunately, as the structure is that you will have to find these people afterwards to ask deep questions. I don't have time for questions and answers from the audience. I'm sorry for that. But we're going to try to make it as dense as possible. And then you have enough juicy stuff to talk with people later at one of the exits here. So start with Laure. You joined very quickly lately. Thank you so much for that. And brief 2 seconds introduction. And if you have seen anything around here, what surprised you, changed now until now?
Hello, everyone. So I'm Laure. Just a first personal background. I grew up in Alsace, which is a wonderful place here in France, and my grandparents and parents were farmer and winemaker. So all those concerns are really tough in my ground, and it's something that I have also inside me, so it's something really important. So I work for 17 years now at Björg & Company. I'm now operating as a marketing director for Björg. And Björg is the leading brand of organic and plant-based food in France. And we were a pioneer, so we started that 40 years ago. So it's really, since a long time for this. And we belong to Ecoton, which is a mission-driven company. And biodiversity is at the heart of our mission. And why is it so important for us? It's because the current food model is responsible for 70% of biodiversity loss. So it's a huge number, and we really believe that we can make the things change and have an impact.
Thank you. And with that, we go to Arnaud. Sorry for my French pronunciation, obviously. I'm butchering all the names, and I'm aware of that. But I didn't pay enough attention at French class. What brings you here? And again, a 2-3 sentence introduction. And then if you have been around here, if you saw something that happily surprised you or not happily surprised you.
So, very good pronunciation. My name is Arnaud. I'm the president of a wine company called Chandon. We make sparkling wine, and we have 6 vineyards all around the globe, from Argentina to Brazil, California, Australia, China, and India. And we are currently moving towards getting our vineyard 100% regenerative. Voilà. So that's what gets me here to testify, and that was super inspiring to hear our previous guest. We're a very small portion of his numbers, but we're trying our best. And what surprised me the most here is 3 things: the energy, the diversity of the initiative, and how so many concrete actions are in play and how many good ideas there are.
Amazing. Dana, thank you so much for joining. And again, a short introduction. We have the great pleasure to interview one of your colleagues before, so I won't spoil anything, but please go ahead. And what brings you here?
Thank you, and hello everyone. I'm Dana, and I represent the One Planet Business for Biodiversity Coalition. Well, we're here because we've been, for the last 6 years, as a coalition, really supporting regenerative agriculture. The coalition's mission is to actually catalyze collective action so that we are able to transform agricultural models. And so it's very natural for us to be here today. It's also great to see how much this conference is growing. So very excited to be here and to be listening to these really insightful speeches before us.
And to stay with you, actually, because I don't think you have two amazing acronyms, which I always mess up when I try to, that's why I didn't do it. But common ground, I think, is a very good theme for, because I don't think many people realize how unique the coalition is that you have set up, basically, because it's not normal for those kind of companies to work together. Can you just allude on that a bit? What common ground in that case is actually so relevant for you?
Sure. So OP2B is actually a business coalition that was created by pioneer businesses that have been actually transitioning their production for a regenerative one for more than a decade. And they thought that they have been sharing some really common challenges, and rather than addressing these challenges separately, they thought that they should come together to work in the pre-competitive space to figure things out. It's a coalition that's quite cross-sectoral, so we have the food manufacturers that are represented, but also we have the fashion and textile sector and the cosmetics sector. And having those different sectors working together and benefiting from the different experiences is very helpful for them. An additional layer to that is that we have the full value chain that is represented. So from farm cooperatives all the way to the distributors, and that helps in aligning the vision and the work forward by working together.
Yeah, I think it's that the word you mentioned, pre-competitive, like these are challenges in landscapes, in regulation, in policy, in finance that are, even if you are a Nestle or one of the big ones that moves roughly $1 billion a year or 100 billion a year, you're not big enough to even move that. So, but it's it's an interesting thought that probably us in business school haven't been taught that you can do pre-competitive things without turning into some kind of monopoly or some kind and that's probably not easy for companies or policy to get used to. But it's a fundamental piece of work which mostly happens in the background. And moving more to the foreground, I want to go to an organic pioneer. Like 40 years is definitely a pioneer in the organic space. How have been the chaotic times recently, of course, with tariffs, with political situations, but also organic was quite under pressure a couple of years ago, 1 or 2 years ago. Like how is the current pulse, the current photograph of the organic space?
So, well, in organic, we have really felt the turbulence. We were in a chaotic time. So what happened is that after the COVID, the inflation raised. So the prices grew up by 20% over 2 years, which is massive for consumer. And so they paid more attention to prices, for sure. So what we experienced is a market contraction for organic and volume dropped. However, and we have a really great news, and it gives us a lot of energy, is that organic is again in a really good shape. We see in 1 year now a strong rebound in terms of economy. So this year we expect a growth of 3 to 5% in organic. And last year, the leading chain in France of specialized shop, they recorded a growth of 9%. So organic is in a good shape and it's back to grow. We are not in the crisis anymore. And how do we analyze the situation is that organic is a good, reliable label, and it speaks to the consumer. So it really speaks on what we eat, on our health, on the soil behind us, on also the water we drink, the food we eat, etc. So it's one of the major concerns. And we think that today there are a crossroad for two systems. One system that is about intensive agriculture, and the other one, which is the organic one, which is reliable and which proves that you can do really good food without using any chemicals and pesticides. So for us in this chaotic time, it's more an opportunity, we see it like that, for a wake-up call for everyone and for us. So a great wake-up call to start to listen to the 8 French people over 10 that are really worried about the use of pesticides. it's a wake-up call to start also to choose a different food, like apples that are organic, so meaning to stop to eat the apples with 36 different treatments. And
Just to repeat, 36.
36 chemical treatments in conventional apples. That's a key figures. And so for us, it's a wake-up call to start to raise our hands and to really act to say no to the use of chemical pesticides.
And as a small follow-up, and then we go to Arnaud, like, do you see that, let's say, health angle of exposure to 36 treatments and to the pesticides, etc., as a key driver, because you come from the marketing side, for consumers, I don't like the word eaters, partner, but for people to buy one brand or one type of product over the other? Do you see that now in terms of response, let's say?
Yeah, we see it. The consumer is changing a little bit. So 40 or 30 years ago, it was really about health, but now it's shifting also towards more climate action and environmental. We know that also the youngest people, they are really keen to eat organic because also of the positive aspect on health, but also on the planet, which is the second key criteria for them.
Which is a perfect bridge to Arnaud, who runs vineyards around the world where you always like to say the sun never sets. What have been the main drivers for a company like yours to start seriously investing in soil? What was originally, let's say, the trigger, and then after that, of course, why are you continuing now in these challenging times? Well, if you are, but you're here, so you're doing that.
Yes, absolutely. I think when you think about our product, our sparkling wine, you think about the creator, the winemaking, the blending, the pleasure of drinking the product with food, with friends. But sometimes what you don't see directly is the relationship with the land. I mean, we have 6 wineries across the globe. When I go there, I'm very frustrated because I live in Paris, and I have to travel 1,400 kilometers to see the team in the land. And our team every day, they drive to a place that is the land where they have beautiful vineyards, and our teams have a very special connection with the land first. They've been seeing change in condition, in climate every year since 10, 15, 20 years, so it's not something new for them. So it's very natural. They've been working on improving the way they grow the fruit, which is grapes, and they've been improving, and we have today sustainable viticultural practice everywhere in the world. And now we are moving to the next level around regeneration through big discussion with the group, with our company, and Soil S is at the heart of what we do. We have a responsibility. We own land. We work with farmers. We are farmers. And learning the impact, and as we saw the filmmaker, that it has to have healthy soils, the impact it has. And at the end, ultimately, it's about the quality. It's about the quality of what we do. It's about the quality of our craft. And at the end, it's about durability, because if we don't evolve and continue to push towards regeneration with simple practice, cover crop, tillage, etc., we're not moving forward toward quality, and we will slowly disappear on top of not doing the right things for the soil. So it's a question of quality.
Is that myth of the suffering vineyard that has to suffer to make the best wine, is that true, or are you saying actually a healthy vineyard produces
the vineyard
great quality?
Probably the grape can live in the most difficult place in the world, but the soils around it, and you can farm differently, and it's just a change of habit and practice. And when you work on vineyard, in any case, it's something you do over 10, 20, 15, 20 years. You know, when you have sick vineyards, at one stage you need to take a decision to pull them off and replant them, and it takes 5 years to grow fruit again. So the relationship of time with nature is very different from the relationship we have in business. And our team have been doing it for years. They see change every year. So it's quite natural. And at the end, as the leader of this company, it's my responsibility to support and empower my team to do the right thing for the land. And that's what we're doing. So we're actually super committed. It's a journey. We're learning every day. We're being supported by our division, Moet Hennessy, by the group, who's giving us confidence. And I tell you something, for us as a team, there's nothing more engaging than the beautiful picture we receive from California, where you have a sheep that's grazing in the land, and we all look at that and smile, and that's what makes us very proud to do what we do.
And from that picture, how does that translate into coming back to the consumer and marketing and sales? Because at the end, you can make amazing sparkling wine, but if nobody buys it, or somebody buys the competitor, that wouldn't be good. Maybe once it's okay, but like, how do you see that storytelling piece and communication piece of making sure people reward you for the work you do that others maybe are doing not yet?
Well, I think two things. First of all, I think in the long term, people who are fans of your brand, they want to know that you're responsible and that you're doing the right thing, and they want to know how you craft. So you need to be transparent and do the right thing, because otherwise they will walk away. The second thing is, I think we need to find ways, because obviously talking about health of the soil may be not sexy. But at the end, we host in our wineries about 300,000 people every year that come to visit. And we've integrated little stories about what we do in the vineyards, and we show nice picture, and we explain what we're doing. So I think through education, through engagement, we can certainly educate why it matters, why it's important, and why it's important we continue to move forward. So people don't buy land per se when they buy wine, but if we can make sure they understand that what we're doing in the vineyard is good, it's a sign of quality, and it's helping to move forward and to do good, I think that's how we get successful.
It's a big piece of the luxury market is, of course, storytelling. And
I think the movie we just saw, I think getting movies that get people excited and transform the story from something technical and scientific. We run in our company, we have an atelier of the soil vivant. The minute, I'm not a scientist, I don't know anything about soils and organism and microbiology, but I remember doing it for the first time. When you start to understand the relationship between the outside, the inside, the insect, the organic life, what you do if you disrupt it, and you play with things and you have questions, okay, I get it. And it's much more simple. It's obvious for my team in the vineyard, not as obvious for me, but once you're into that, you want to support it and do more.
The rabbit hole is deep. And for you, Dana, how is, without naming names, or the current chat, how do we make sure regeneration and soil health, in all the noise we have currently, not only because of this amazing room, it's quite noisy, but also in general, let's say the outside world is quite noisy at the moment. What do you see with the brands and the companies and the producers that are, not all have the luxury to be luxury brands, but actually have to move a lot of grain where it's all commodified? What do you see the current feeling is around regeneration?
So I would say that uncertainty is nothing new to the agricultural sector.
They're like, oh yeah, this happens every other day.
Well, we're experiencing a new level of uncertainty, but definitely the companies that are part of the coalition have been dealing with uncertainty linked to climate. But now if you add on top of that political uncertainty, that adds another level of difficulty, specifically because in order for businesses to take meaningful actions, there are two things that are necessary today for regeneration to become something that we can scale. The first thing is companies need data alignment and transparency, and so they need the alignment of frameworks, of these regulatory frameworks, so with the changes that creates uncertainty as well for them. But that's not, I would say, stopping them from working on this. We've just concluded 2 years where we aligned companies on what is the vision for regenerative agriculture, what are the impacts that are generated. And so we were able, beyond the coalition, to bring on board more than 1,000 businesses to that alignment. The other aspect, and I think this is the key point if you want to scale regenerative agriculture, is financing. How do we finance that transition? So on one hand, we know that the current incentives are not fit for purpose. So that's an issue that we need to work on. And on the other hand, businesses like the ones that are part of OP2B are also working very hard to de-risk the transition for their farmers. And that requires a lot of money, in all honesty. We just concluded a study that showed that a farmer in Europe, looking across different crops and geographies, need between 2,000 to 5,000 euros per hectare. If you look at the 40% target that we need to achieve globally on regenerative production, in Europe, that amounts to 40 million hectares. So I won't go into the math of all of it, but you can only imagine the costs behind all of that. So these companies are now working into how can we finance this transition? Because they are already putting a lot of money on the table, but that's not enough. So how do we bring in investors as well into the mix? And how do we combine these with the public-private partnerships so that we also have the support from the public sector? But again, the uncertainty plays on the capacity of the public sector to actually fund this. So big issues ahead of us, but we've been working on this for a while now, and I think pioneer companies are always really exciting to work with because they're always looking ahead and wanting to figure out a solution.
And anything to add? We're starting to slowly run out of time just for both of you. Like, it seems on one hand the world is on fire, on the other hand we have to keep going. And how do we keep this front of mind? Is there any in the storytelling or the narrative or in the work that we should highlight more or less while we talk to policymakers, while we talk to willing companies and consumers?
Yeah, it's really key to make people really aware of the choice they have when they eat, so in food choice. Yeah. That's really key. So at Björg, we act and we inform. So we have a fantastic program with our farmers that is really related to organic plus the best of agroecological practices, longer crop rotation, better soil coverage, etc. But then once we have acted, we also need to educate consumer, and that's my day-to-day job, so as a marketer. And we have decided 2 years ago to put an environmental scoring in front of all our packaging. So this was really a pioneering also situation. So right in front of more than 100 millions of Björg packaging, you can find a scoring that shows clearly the impact of the food on biodiversity, because it's the main drainer of biodiversity and life in soil, also on climate change, and on pesticide usage. So this is really key for us to make it happen and to be front of mind, so at breakfast, at the table, and raise also the discussion for the families so that they can just ask why it is sometimes red, sometimes green, etc. So this is for us one of the key message. And so it's really key to keep organic and biodiversity protection at the table of the conversation. So also for politics, and so we work with NGO for collective mobilization. We have launched a campaign called Tous Exposés, All Exposed. And this is about the chemical pesticide exposure. So also we work to really change the politic and to positively influence the law. So by starting
activism as a company.
Activism,
yeah.
So the more we act, the more we also communicate and inform, the more we can really shift the consumer demand to and shape a better food model for the future.
Arnaud, we have 59 seconds. Any closing words?
What I would just say is regenerative agriculture is a key pillar of our sustainability roadmap, and quite frankly, sustainability is a question of business performance. It's not a side project.
So you're
of the
opening
company.
this kind of conversation when we have 40 seconds
I know,
left.
but it's not a side project of the company. It is, when you run a company, obviously you need to deliver your result. But what is your role? Your role, you're just a few years, 10 years, 5 years of the destiny of a brand that has a long age. And the purpose of what we do is make sure when you leave, the asset of the company and what we do is in better shape. It's the brand, but it's also the nature. And because we work with land, we need to make sure regenerative is part of the practice. It's not a side project. It's at the heart of what we do. And at the end, it's business because it's desirability. And if we're not behaving, besides communication, people more and more will want to know we're responsible and we're committed. We're transparent. We're not perfect, but we're on a path to commitment and to progress. And that's a question of durability.
Give the last few words to
I'll be very brief. I think that companies today are aware that regenerative agriculture for them is a way to ensure the resilience of their supply chains. Because ultimately, and we've heard that if our soils are unhealthy, there is no production, there are no supply chains, there are no businesses in the end. And so very much linked to that, so very much agree with Arnaud here. And the other side of this is that this is going to drive competitiveness as well. So in times of uncertainty, competitiveness is also going to become a really important topic that actually can be achieved through regenerative production. So I think those are competitiveness and resilience. That's the way forward.
And with that, I want to thank my amazing panelists of today and for this short panel. Find them on the side. Sorry, I'm going to send people to you now. Find them on the side to dig deeper. Thank you so much for coming here, for sharing, and for keep putting the spotlight on the work you do, or even in the background, but keep going on, because uncertainty is unfortunately only on the rise at the moment. Thank you so much. Join me in a round of applause, please.